Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Going to spend some time with my friend Marc Krasney, attorney in law. Talk a little bit about what's happening in the legal front as it relates to you and your business. You can learn more about Marc Krasney at Krasney Law Firm. That's Krasney, KrasneyLawFirm.com. Marc, a little bit about your practice before we get to our topic.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, Kevin. What we do is we act like general counsel for companies, but we don't actually office with our clients. And so picture us kind of like what Exxon does, and we just ask you to outsource your legal business to my law firm. And so for a fee each month, you get to give us a call, you get to have us review documents, and treat us like your in-house counsel for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, you got to love that idea. Tell us about our topic for today.
What I was thinking about was one thing we haven't discussed in the years I've been on the show, and that's pretty popular right now in my practice, which is buying and selling businesses. You know, with the economy getting better, people have money. And when people have money, my clients are either wanting to buy a company or they're wanting to cash out. And so there's lots of issues surrounding that I thought we would spend just a few minutes talking about.
Yeah, very good. Well, kind of give us a landscape of what you're seeing and hearing from your clients.
With selling an entity, or a company rather, there's a couple of issues. One, are we selling the company, which means the stock or the actual LLC units, so that you're selling the actual entity, or are you willing to piecemeal it and just sell some assets? And then the discussion there needs to be also, are we selling liabilities or just the assets? And then other questions about releases and assignments for property and, again, liabilities. All the things we have to talk about, because most of the time, like I've talked about on this show, clients just worry about making the widgets or providing the service. But when it gets into this, they wonder, what do I have to do to make sure I get that big fat check when I want to sell the business? It's a pretty huge topic.
Yeah, I bet. A very popular one, indeed. So, and it sounds like the fact that you brought it up is something that you're seeing a lot more discussion about these days.
Yeah, for sure. We're in the midst of doing a couple of those issues right now and closing for the end of the year. And most of the clients at this point are selling the assets. You know, there's really no interest in selling the company, because most companies don't really have any value like McDonald's or Exxon or something like that. Most people just have value in the asset or the type of service. And so what we do right now is, you know, we'll be preparing asset purchase agreements, releases, assignments, bill of sale, discussing financing. A lot of clients, too, realize, hey, there's not that big fat paycheck out there, but more like a monthly fee. And they're much more interested in financing something with a promissory note. And so we go through all the ins and outs of that, interest, amortization schedules, and really guide the client through the sale of the business.
Right. And it almost becomes like an annuity.
Exactly. And it's a nice way to have a little bit of income each month.
Yeah, you got to love that. You got to love that. And so is there a reason why you've got so many shooting for the end of the year to close these deals?
I think people are just looking either to cash out because it's a good time. You know, we know with most business is cyclical, and right now you're on the upswing. And when you're on the upswing, there are people who just want to take advantage, or, you know, they've been in the business for 20, 30 years, let somebody else do it. And so, you know, 15 years in practice, it's about time for some of these clients to say, I've had enough. Let's cash out.
Gotta love that. Gotta love that. So, what should people be keeping in mind when considering this?
Well, not just the documents, the releases, talking to a lawyer on how to handle it, but also the financial aspect, too, because there are some huge considerations there to figure out with what to do for tax purposes. You know, are we doing a capital sale? What kind of taxes will I have to face? You know, is this a pass-through entity? What's my tax rate to Uncle Sam? Those are the kind of things also to discuss with your good CPA. And that's what I always tell people when they're starting their business, get a good lawyer, get a good CPA. And when you're selling a business, at this stage, rely on the advice of a good lawyer and a good CPA so that you're not in any hot water or dangers going forward.
Yeah, don't let your good thing become a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good advice, very good advice. So right from day one, when you begin that discussion, you suggest that they begin to engage with their attorney and come up with that whole plan. They not only need a current attorney, it sounds like they probably need a good accounting advice as well.
Yeah, you're paying your taxes every year, and you want to make sure that whatever entity structure you're in is the proper one, and the same thing at the end. You're still going to have to pay taxes. Let's make sure that whatever taxes you have to pay are the most you absolutely have to pay, or really the least you absolutely have to pay.
So other than this, as we wrap up the conversation, what other hot topics are you seeing or issues being brought up by your clientele?
Well, it's also end of the year, and I know when we have these conversations at the end of the year, our clients are reviewing their contracts, making sure that the entity structure they're in, the size of the company they're in, actually fits the contracts they started with or have had over the years. And the idea would be, if you've gotten bigger, you've seen some issues come up in your business, let's revise those contracts, those documents that you've relied upon for the whole year, the last year, so that they fit your current needs. Businesses grow, they get bigger, they get smaller, and with those changes come changes in everything. So change those documents, change the contracts we rely on, those little terms and conditions, all that fine print, update all that stuff at the end of the year. So really beginning January 1, you can start fresh, start new, relying on the positives and the minuses, the negatives that happened this year in business.
Marc Krasney has been our guest. He's he's a regular contributor on The Price of Business. Learn more about him at Krasney, Krasney, lawfirm.com. I am Kevin Price. When we come back, much more for you right here on The Price of Business.